Man, I feel like I've been reviewing nothing but Disney on this segment of the show. Time to change things up. And what better change than to go to the biggest challenger of the Disney formula than by the cartoons of Tex Avery. To imagine that as long as I've had this show, I've barely covered Avery's work. Not only is Tex Avery easily on the top of my list of favorite animators, like Ub Works and the Fleisches, but I really feel his influence on animation was a real game changer. While he was at Warner Brothers working on the Looney Tunes, creators and historians credit him as the man who created Bugs Bunny. Well, the bunny we all know. What historians forget to mention is that a bunch of animators get credit for creating Bugs Bunny. And I feel that the character is sort of a Frankenstein's monsters of different trademarks by different animators. He's a product of termite terrence, if you will. His trademarks include perfecting the double take, adult humor that isn't blatant but not entirely subtle, and wacky upon wacky surreal humor. Now, I'm not downplaying how wacky I feel his work is, because there are visual jokes that take risks and run the gamut of all things funny. The best part about it is that it's never compromising. If you think a joke ends up corny, that's fine, because Tex will probably point it out as well, to hilarious effect. Now, what better cartoon to look at than what most people consider as the crown jewel of Tex Avery cartoons, none other than Red Hot Riding Hood. What people tend to forget about this short is that it's one in 3 shorts that makes a trilogy. I use quotes only because the characters would eventually be popular enough to star in their own cartoons, unrelated to the main focus of these 3. The focus centers around turning fairy tales over their heads and making them more provocative. In this case, taking Little Red Riding Hood and moving the story into the big city into a nightclub. The wolf takes the form of a horny high roller. Red is a burlesque dancer, and the grandmother manages to be hornier than the wolf. You're starting to see Avery's off-the-wall sense of humor? To me, this has 2 significances as far as animation culture goes. One, it takes the Disney formula of using fairy tales to tell family-friendly adventures and turns it on its head.
Every cartoon studio in Hollywood has done it this way.
Something of which movies like Shrek and Hoodwink would eventually follow as well. It also helps when you have animators from Disney like Preston Blair, who would mainly animate Red. Instead of an old world setting, Avery brings the story of Little Red into fairly relatable settings, archetypes, and humor. Well, some of which can stand the test of time, and others that are specific for that time period. This brings me to my second significance, which is getting away with said adult humor. Around this time, the Hays Code was already in motion, which created limitations for animators to make sexual or violent innuendos. The brilliance of this short is how Avery originally intended for the ending to have a joke involving the grandmother marrying Wolfie and having half-breed children. The censors caught it and allowed for the not-so-drastic change, which to me points out the irony of most censors, by having Wolfie commit suicide. You see, bestiality was a big no-no for the Hays Code in cartoons, that once you cut that joke, you allow for anything else to get past, even things that the censors would have caught the first time. But the best thing about this short is that it doesn't have to resort to violence or sex that makes the grown-ups laugh. Sometimes a mature sense of humor doesn't have to be raunchy. It's also why I think a lot of people love the character of Wolfie. He's aggressive, but not in the sense that he's a bad person, just a guy who wants to get with Red. He's on par with a frat boy at a club who wants to get lucky, but only finds it more challenging to what seems like a simple request. Add some alcohol into the mix, and it becomes a bizarre adventure. What can I say? This cartoon's a classic. If you come across it on YouTube or any old prints that are available, I also recommend checking out the other 2 shorts. One of which has Wolfie taking care of his redneck cousin, and the other which is a parody of Cinderella. Oddly enough, this one might be harder to find, but I managed to find it in time for my show's intro. I guess I'm just lucky.